Okay, I wanted to thank Rabbi Klatzko for joining us for this edition of Lift Up Your Legacy. Rabbi Klatzko is a huge inspiration. I've probably told you this, but if not, let me do this. Very few people, I think no people have had such an influence in my career and in my life as you have. I really have spent, I was saying 10 years, but now it's longer than that, trying to be you and try to follow your legacy. You and I sat down in Israel, the first Israel trip I went on, you were on it, and you sat down and you said, we really need people to take over this vision. And I took that very seriously, and I've tried to a great extent to live my life accordingly. So I wanted to thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Rabbi Klatzko, you are in charge of Shabbat.com. Are you still doing your radio show as well?
We do a television show now.
You do a television show, okay. How do people find that? Is that online or just do your...
Yeah, so we just started recording. It's called The Joy of Judaism.
Okay.
You can find it on Hidabrut. Right now it's on Hidabrut, which is excuse me, it's an online television video network, but it will be on cable and like a 9 different venues. You'll be able to watch it: Roku, Apple TV, and so on.
Amazing. And Shabbat.com, how big is it now?
About 100,000 members.
100,000 members. How many countries?
133 countries.
133 countries. It's bigger than Tony Robbins, I think. It's very impressive. Awesome. Thank God. Okay. So I wanted to sort of delve into you. I don't want to preface this by saying that you're a man of unbelievable vision and have done so much to change not only my life and not only so many other people's lives, but the Jewish world as a whole, and how Jews relate to Judaism and to the world. So I wanted to start off, if you had any major mentors or figures in your life who you looked up to or look up to now.
Okay, that's a great question. I would say that the first people would be my parents and my grandfather in particular. I had a grandfather who did a lot. I sort of strived to be him. His name was Rabbi Meir Eisenman, and he did everything from building a Jewish day school in Minnesota to being the rabbi of 5 different cities at once. He had a radio show, and then for the coup de grace, at the very end of his life, he built a hospital.
You're kidding.
A hospital called Laniado in Netanya.
Amazing.
And he collected antiques, and he enjoyed the opera, and he would go front seat Wimbledon and enjoyed a fine cigar. He just was the Secchi commercials' most interesting man in the world, but a real life version of him.
That's awesome.
And I I look up to him and how he treated other people, and that, so I strive to be.
What was your relationship like with him growing up?
So I was his oldest grandson, and although he did not live in the same city, which was, I guess, a pity because I didn't see him as often as I wanted to, but he lived in Israel, and I was in Israel for a number of years, and he would come to visit often in Cleveland, which is where I grew up, and it was always very warm, and I was always very much, I would say, in awe of his presence, how when he walked in the room lit up, and everyone like, oh, Rabbi Eisenman's here, and he would just like point to people like, oh, Shalom, hello, and he made every person feel like they were the number one superstar in the world, and he remembered everyone's name, and it was a close relationship and one of utter respect.
Wow. Yeah. Do you have one specific like picture in your head of him doing something, or a memory with him?
I mean, there's a lot. One of the many talents that he had was he knew how to conduct orchestras professionally. Like, why would he learn to do it? He won a contest when he was younger. He learned how to conduct. When he was younger, he once walked into the London Philharmonic. Now, that's one of the most important orchestras in the world. And someone whispered to the conductor, the Rabbi Eisenman is in the house. So in between pieces, in between concertos, he went to the microphone and he said, Rabbi Eisenman is in the house. Can you please come down and conduct the London Philharmonic? And my grandfather just walked down and conducted the London Philharmonic. So one of the pictures I have in my head was someone played classical music for him while he was asleep. He was taking a nap one afternoon. And in his sleep, you see him with his eyes closed, going like this, conducting the orchestra, like in his mind, just like one of those many things he just knew how to do and was good at. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I guess I was going to say you're kind of very unique, but I guess it's just kind of in this generation unique, but go back a generation and you're, okay, that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about like your life now. You built the huge, you're kind of sitting at the helm of this huge empire and have built a lot of things and have a great deal of influence, but just run us through, if you could, a little bit about your life and how you got to where you are.
Okay. Pardon me. I did get married young to the first lady that I went out with, and I proposed 45 minutes into our first date, and she said yes. So that sort of set the trend for being impulsive and going with my gut.
Was that the beginning? You didn't do that beforehand, or is this kind of something you've always done?
I probably did it, but never.
This is the first time really.
That's like a big,
a big one.
Magnitude of saying, "Hey, you look amazing. You're an amazing person. Let's just do this. What are we wasting time?" So that sort of became the way that I look at life. That everything is a puzzle to be solved, and there's always a solution. If you turn the box over, you'll see the solution. So there's really no reason to ever get stuck. There's always something to do. So when I was younger, I started off. I studied in kollel, which means I studied Torah for a living, as it were. But after a while, I began to teach, and I didn't have a degree, but I figured, why not? And that sort of became the modus operandi. Why not? It could be done, so let's try it. When I was 21, I was asked to take over a synagogue and to be the rabbi. So at 21, I was the rabbi for almost 6 years in my first synagogue in Brooklyn. I was sitting once studying Torah, and a man came over to me and he said, "Could you study the laws of circumcision with me?" Now, I don't know anything about circumcision, but I said, sure. So I learned to be a moel. So I learned how to do circumcisions, and I did all my sons and my nephews.
Wow.
Sort of like, almost like a bucket list. I wanted to write a book. So I wrote a book, got it published. Then I always wanted to make a CD. So I recently made a CD. I started once, it didn't end. I didn't finish it, and it just got completed. After a while, I just realized it's not about checking off the boxes, but maybe trying to do good in the process and helping people. So,
can you just delve into that a little bit? What do you mean checking off the box in terms of like career or family, or what do you mean?
Yeah, or I would say things that I felt I had in me. Like a lot of people say, I have in me a poet. So write poetry. Why not? But I don't know where to start. Pen and a paper, write it. How do I get it published? You just do. You call a publisher and you get it published. There's always, like I said, it's a puzzle that needs to be solved. And if others before you have done it, then you can do it. But that just becomes like a check, a check in the box. Okay, book done, CD recording done, radio done, television done, right? But then after a while, you say, life goes on, and we get older, and what are we really doing to make this world a better place because we're here? And it's not just being able to be what's called in the Hebrew a kolbo, which means somebody who could do everything. But even if you can't do a lot, but if what you do makes another person happier, makes their life a little bit easier, a little more comfortable, a little more spiritual, a little more meaningful, so that you've done something really significant. So I started when I went to campus. That's when I went to UCLA. And that's sort of the first time I really felt like what I was doing was genuinely meaningful, being the rabbi over there.
Is that an impulsive decision? If I could cut you, I'm sorry.
Very much so. Yeah. Very much so. I had just had a brother who passed away, and I had made up my mind I want to go back to studying Torah full time. And when I went to interview by a kollel, and I told them, they asked me what I had done until now. When I told them all that I had done, they said, look, you're overqualified for kollel. You'll never be able to sit in one place and study full time anymore. You're just going to be too restless. And the truth is they were right. So they said, look, there is an opening in UCLA. And I knew nothing about college outreach. No one really did at that time. There was no such thing. But I said, sure, let's just do it. And it was a puzzle, and hopefully it was solved. No.
So you felt it while working with students for the first time. I guess, was it because you could see a tangible growth that you were providing? Or when did you, so you felt for the first time that you were really sort of moving from box checking to contribution?
It's a lot of those things. It's definitely the students' growth. It's definitely not just about box checking, but maybe even on a deeper level, it was about self-actualization. Mm-hmm. The greatest goal that we can accomplish in our lives is to be authentic. Authenticity is incredibly hard, and the world is not made for authenticity. It's made for a show. It's made for trappings and the exterior and the show and the first impression. And just to be able to be you and to grow within yourself, and for that to be acceptable and okay and even special, authenticity. That's what it's all about. And I think going from a rabbinate where I would stand at the pulpit and lecture to a campus rabbi, which is also a form of a rabbi, but the longer I was there, the more I didn't try to be anyone but me. And if a student liked it, that was great. If they didn't, then I'm not their man, and I can live with that. I felt that that was really, it was really good. It was good for my growth. It was good when it came to my future projects, because I no longer worried about being inauthentic and trying to be something and someone who I was not. This is my idea. This is my thought. This is my initiative. And it's what speaks to me. And if it doesn't speak to you, that's perfectly acceptable as well. No.
That's interesting. So you found, did this feeling of inauthenticity, was that something that you struggled with prior to going into campus? Or did you just sort of start to feel a sense of, I'm really kind of connecting to my root myself right now, and I'm just going to run with it? What was that like? Were you looking for something, you just kind of fall into something that really spoke to you?
I think when I look back, I really was struggling with authenticity. I think I really was. I think in a way we all do. We're a multitude of people depending on who is staring at us. If a guy is looking at us and he thinks we're funny, then when I'm standing in front of them, I'm the funny guy. Yeah. And if someone else considers me highly intelligent, then I find intelligent things coming out of my lips. And when they both happen to be standing there, I don't know what to do. So being really just you, and that's okay, and that's more than okay. That's very special, because God wants you to be you, and the world needs you to be you. It's something I discovered afterwards, and it's not done. It's not something that I've got licked, and now I'm completely authentic.
I'm so sorry. We're going to get to the end of it. I want to ask, based on what you're just saying, and I think that it's something that a lot I struggle with, and I think that we struggle, especially as someone that doesn't grow up in a religious environment and then enters a religious environment, and then once you sort of leave a religious environment, you go into a new community, and being in different communities, and that whole issue of trying to balance different roles and needing to show up as one way as a father, and one way as a husband, and one way as a guy in the shul, and one way as a businessman, or however you want to do that. It seems like finding that authenticity and sort of not worrying about what people are going to think about you is one of the most challenging things you could possibly do. So how does one, short of falling into it, how does one like actively work on that? If they feel inauthentic or they feel like they're not really showing up, how do they start to work on that and still try to keep everything in place?
Okay, it's a great question. I would say the answer is when we are doing the right thing, when we're genuinely doing the right thing. See, today, anxiety and depression are among the top of the charts when it comes to the personal psychological struggles that we struggle with. And one of the key reasons that people struggle with depression, where they just don't feel good about themselves, is because they are inauthentic. When you're inauthentic and you feel like I'm presenting one way, but really I know that inside I'm somebody different, it leads towards this clash within us where things just don't fit properly. And that feeling of things just are not fitting, I'm not whole, that makes us feel depressed. So if we know that we're doing the right thing, and as a Jew, it means my davening is a real davening, my Torah learning is a real Torah learning, I'm growing and I'm being kind. And yeah, I'm a rabbi, but I don't go around in a jacket. I have this like sweater thingy and I live in it, and it's just, I love it. And when I go to daven, I wear my sweater thingy. And even though people know I'm a rabbi, but this is me being authentic. I'm not authentic to the point where I'm oblivious. I'm very aware, but part of being aware means I'm going to do the right thing. And if I know I'm doing the right thing on the right track, then no matter who I am, no matter how I grew up, I can just march forward and not worry. So it's about doing the right thing, clinging to truth. Then you don't have to worry about being authentic. Authenticity will be easy.
So if a person feels, for example, the idea that God has such a great expectation for them, and could be strange, and I feel like that, I think probably most people expect that they have God expects a lot out of them, considering how much he gives to us and how many opportunities you have, he gives you kids and everything like that. So how does a person balance that sense of I could always be doing more? Like you mentioned, like the jacket's an amazing example in New York, or in short sleeve shirts and somewhere else. How does a person feel like I authentically want to be me, but at the same time, like, where am I growing? Is it just trying to look at halacha? How does a person try to like really drill down on that?
I don't view them as two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
I am a vessel for Hashem. More than I'm a vessel, I actually view myself as a conduit, almost like the electrical wire. And it's a prayer that I say it a lot. I say it out loud. Hashem, make me a good conduit. So to me, there is no me outside of God. And I know that may sound very, it may sound like I'm being absorbed by something that loses my reality. But I find it the opposite. I find that that when I'm doing the right thing, my reality is actualized as like Hashem says, like Eliezer said, Eved Avram Anochi. I'm a certain my
That's my essence.
identity. That's my essence. So I don't have to worry about me versus halacha. I am halacha. I want to, and even when I personally am falling short, but I know that's where I'm going to be, and that's what I'm going to work on. And I know that I can't work on everything at once, and I know that. And if I know that, then God knows that also. But that is the plan, and I'm not going to flip and make excuses for it.
Is that a switch? Was there a moment where you switched? I mean, because that's an amazing idea, and I'm curious, is there a moment that you switched into that? Is that something that you have to consistently tell yourself to condition your mind to see the world that way? How does a person adopt that?
I would say the idea of being a conduit was something that was sort of an epiphany to me. In other words, I always knew that I want to be close to Hashem. I always say Judaism is not a religion, it's a relationship. So I want to have that relationship with Hashem. But the idea that Hashem actually is using me to help his people means that I'm the current between heaven and his people. I'm that, and you're that current as well. You're creating this podcast, this video, and we're going to give people energy and strength and good vibes. So now you're making yourself into that electrical wire as well. So it behooves us to say, Hashem, let this conduit be a really stable, let it be grounded, let my current be grounded. I mean, you can make a lot of analogies with it, but Yeah, that concept that God wants me as a vessel to help his people, that I had to come to.
And then you tell yourself that on a consistent, because one of the questions I had was the idea of staying inspired. Certainly when you're playing on a level like you're playing on, but I think even people that are just not just, but going through life and all of the challenges of being a person. How do, in terms of staying inspired, is that the secret? Is seeing yourself, like, how do you keep inspired and keep growing and keep trying to find something new?
Well, first of all, you should cut yourself some slack. Meaning nobody
Place for my mom.
Nobody stays inspired all the time. Nobody. We get tired and we need a little bath and we need a break and we need to sleep in some days. Like, we've got our moments where we are we're heavy. We're very heavy. The body's heavy. The bones are heavy. The flesh is heavy. But when we live for others, it really inspires. And when we know that extra push, that extra phone call, that extra moment on the line with somebody can be the difference between making their day or them spiraling out of control or into a depression. All those things are incredibly empowering and make us feel good, make us feel like we've got something valuable to offer the world. And we do.
How do you create with your vision when you're looking at a new project or you're analyzing something or you're working on something? How does that process work in your mind? Like figuring out your next step. If it's on the same theme of helping people, but like, how do you work on visions and multiple visions at once, and etc.?
So there's 2 points. There's the actual project, and then there's how you pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
The how you pay for it, I never really know. And to tell you the truth, a lot of it is through bitachon, which means faith that God is going to help me. I have a friend who's a very wealthy person, and just this morning he sold one of his companies to Verizon for $3.1 billion.
Nice. With a B.
With a B, yeah.
How about it? Okay.
So just an hour ago, I wrote them and say, "How are you? Mazel tov. I'm so happy for you. Now you got a lot of miser to spend. I want to help you spend it. When are we going to meet?"
That's awesome.
Right? I got 10%. And I actually CC'd our good friend, and he calls me up right after. He says, "Oh, you got some guy." It's announced on Fox News this morning, and here I am. Let's spend your miser. How I paid for it, I really don't know. Sometimes by the skin of my teeth. The idea itself, like I said, it's a puzzle. If I'm inspired to do it, I always think people have done bigger things. So I could do this. What is it? Is it a website? Let's build a website. Is it connections? Let's call it connections. Thank God today we've got social networks. Shabbat.com is a very big social network at this point, but it's nothing like Facebook, something like LinkedIn. So we can reach out to people. And I think if you create a track record that you could actually put a product on the table and the product will be a good product and you'll back it and you'll give it your passion and you'll give more than your money's worth, people are going to be throwing their money at you because they'll know that you're going to spend it wisely. Mm-hmm. I believe that.
Amazing. I know it's probably very hard, but we'll see. Distilling down someone who is given many hours of marriage and parenting shiur, of which I've listened to many of them. If you were going to distill down into a few very concise points, starting with marriage, how does a person have a Torah marriage that lasts for a long time, that is full of passion and fulfillment and growth? A couple points on that.
Well, number one, marriage does not work with inertia. There's no momentum in a marriage, just like there's no momentum in a relationship. The moment you stop watering your plant begins to shrivel up and die. And marriage works the same way. You need constant watering, constant sunshine, smiles, compliments, good soil, right? Don't let any other plants grow too near to it. That's going to suck out its nutrients. So too in your relationship, don't let other relationships infringe too close to that relationship. It's going to suck out the energies that you have. The other thing is, it's really important in life not to be too rigid. not to be too rigid. We get sort of stuck in the we're right. And the truth of the matter is, whether we're right or whether we're wrong, if we're a little flexible, if we're a little more than flexible and understanding, good things will happen. It's when we get rigid and when it's our way or a highway, or we're too self-confident, that we just end up ruining everything. So,
does that apply to parenting? Would you add another thing onto parenting? I feel like that's pretty good for parenting also. But is there something else you think about parenting?
Excellent for parenting. Excellent for parenting. Not to be too rigid. We're going to make plenty of mistakes. The one mistake that you're not going to make is if you show love and give attention and give time. But everything else that we want, go here, don't go here, see this, don't see this, have this friend, not that friend. When we are so rigid, we may be right and we could even win the battle, but we could end up losing the war. And the war is that relationship that we have with our children or our spouse. So the trick in life is to have your compass calibrated and you know which direction you're heading, but sometimes to be willing to go on the scenic route to get there.
You're not really be sure how you're going to get there, I guess, and be okay with that.
Right. Or even if you go the longer route that your spouse wants you to go.
Did you find yourself, I guess, in terms of dealing with things turning out differently, or I don't know, failure is a perception, but dealing with projects that didn't work or people that you had hoped and, it didn't go the way it did, how do you deal with disappointment or failure or life not working out the way we anticipated?
Yeah, it happens all the time, literally all the time. The real trick for a Jew is called bitachon or emunah. We have faith that at the end of the day, God runs this awesome world. And if we take a moment and breathe and breathe in the hope and the emunah and breathe out the negativity, nobody could touch you. Nobody could hurt you. And in reality, no one could even disappoint you, because that person who you look at sort of selfishly, like they disappointed you, really, they may be disappointing themselves. They wanted to grow more. They're more selfish than they thought they would be, or they're more stagnant than you want them to be. And that could even be your children or your spouse. You're disappointed that they didn't do well on the test, or they don't have that many friends, or they're also disappointed. They also want to have more friends. They also want to do better in school. They also want to be more popular. So instead of taking everything personally, you give that love. You understand that ultimately the Almighty runs the world. And if a person isn't the one to help you, then they're just not meant to be the one to help you. And as we say, Harbe shluchim lamakom. There are many messengers for Hashem. Hashem can do it in so many ways. Don't worry about it.
Wow. Okay, two more quick questions. I know you're very busy. Question number one is, you had told me a while ago that I had to sort of figure out my theme and what was my main drive. You said in Asia Torah. And I was curious if you have one mission that sort of defines everything, if it changes, and how you got there. Why was that your one thing?
I had a one thing for a while. I mean, it was outreach. Then it went on to this Jewish social network, which became sort of a big deal. Now I have a new one that's beginning to marinate in my mind, which
it's exciting.
It's connected to outreach, but it's a little bit different. I want the outreach community to start adopting in a large way the responsibility of Jewish dating. I don't find we understand that idea. Like, for example, in LA for a while, they used to have something called Friday Night Live in one of the temples on Wilshire. Mm-hmm. And again, 1,000 singles would come. We have not tapped into the Jewish dating as a way of engaging singles in a global way. We don't represent that. We represent Torah. We represent Shabbat maybe, but dating we sort of have left to others, or we've left it to websites. But if we created a movement, I think we'd bring a lot of people in the door. And we know when it comes to apps, for example, you put out a dating app, you get a J-Swipe, you get 1 million members because people want to meet people from the tribe. So let's take it out of the cybersphere and make it our cause as a new entry point. We have Israel as an entry point, Israel trips birthright. We got learning Torah. Let's use dating as our entry point into Judaism.
Have you facilitated anything in terms of what that would practically look like, or is it too early to tell?
It is early. It's a very, very big project.
It's a huge need. Trust me.
It is a huge need. One thing that I'm thinking of is sort of to create a company which does something akin to the Antiques Roadshow. So a singles roadshow where this roadshow would go from city to city, and you would know when the roadshow is coming to your part of the town and to your state, and that roadshow would gather all the singles to that state, and just they'd come out in masses. And meanwhile, you get the organizations who are involved in outreach to also be there to connect with people, and it becomes sort of the Jewish Singles Roadshow. That's sort of an idea. You like that idea?
I like that. That's awesome. That's very cool. Okay, so last two questions. Question number one: projects. What besides this? What are you? I know you're going to Israel on Sunday. What are you doing now? What are you focusing on? What do you think is the most exciting thing you have going on right now?
Wow. So I am going to Israel. We started a trip called Akiva, and Akiva is doing like 6 trips a year, 3 to Israel, 2 to Poland, and 1 elsewhere. I think this year.
You go back to Poland. You're just in Poland. You don't go to Israel afterwards.
Yeah, sometimes we'll do Israel, Poland, but separate groups. This year, that extra trip we're doing is going to be England.
Nice.
So that's going to be exciting. So we have this Akiva trip concept. The Shabbat.com has turned a huge corner. We were just named by Israel the top project to connect Jews worldwide.
Wow.
That was out of 80 global projects. So we didn't even know we were in there.
Not bad.
And we got an email saying we're in the top 3, and they want all of our numbers and our back end and our analytics. So we gave it to them. And then I was called by the minister. We're the number 1 way to connect Jews in the world.
That's amazing. What does that mean practically? Are they going to send you more traffic or give you money? Or
so they are going to award us a bonus. It'll be an advertising bonus, a very significant amount of money.
Great.
The money is not going to be for R&D. It will be to advertise, spread it around the world.
Awesome.
It could be a yearly thing. So that would be really special. The app, incredibly on iPhone, is still 5 stars. On Google, Google Play is 4.8, and would really have pushed the idea that Shabbat.com is no longer just Shabbat invites. It's a very legitimate social network for dating and for jobs and for sharing pictures and just Jewish people connecting. So there's that going on. And there are a few other things that I can't really unbag right now. But.
Okay, deal. People following you, if people want to get more of Rabbi K, where do they go to find you and follow you and your projects?
So they can go to, well, first of all, sign up for Shabbat.com. You can always friend me over there. I look at the site very, very often. It's an app. I get a little buzz. So I'll see that you reached out. There's messaging like WhatsApp on the site. It's not WhatsApp, but it works like WhatsApp on Shabbat.com. I do have a Facebook group. You can follow me. I don't think anyone can friend me anymore. It's max.
That, yeah.
Or if you
what's the Facebook group? Rabbi Klatzko?
Yeah, Benzion Klatzko, Benzion Z Klatzko. There is a Rabbi Klatzko group where I post my classes also on Facebook.
Okay.
And if you want to reach me, I'm very open with my contact info. I'll give you my phone number. I like to be there for the Jewish people. It's 212 Shabbat, so it's really easy to remember. 212-742-2228, or Rabbi Klatzko at Gmail. And if you have a good idea, you want to start a project, thank God I started over 14 different organizations, and I'm happy to team up if there's something that I think is worthwhile.
Amazing. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this on such short notice.
My pleasure.
You're the best. Have a safe trip.
Thank you. Hatzlacha. Good luck in all that you do.
Amen. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.